Billie Eilish has had a meteoric rise to fame, becoming one of the most famous artists on the planet. Her voice is both distinctive and divisive. However, there is no doubt that she has had a huge impact on the music industry. But what is it about her that connects with so many people? What makes Billie Eilish great? Billie is known for her distinctively quiet, breathy tone. But has that always been the case? Well, I was actually quite surprised when researching this that she doesn't use as much of that breathy tone on her first single from 2015, Ocean Eyes.
Burning cities and napalm skies, 15
Whereas in a live performance from 2019, she sounds like this.
burning cities and napalm skies.
The first thing to bear in mind is she was only 13 years old when she released this first single, so it is hardly surprising that she hadn't quite fully embodied her vocal style yet. But it also shows that this trademark tone is a choice. Now, I'm going to play you a really interesting clip of her singing an Alicia Keys song when she was 12 years old, and you can hear how her voice could have gone towards a more standard contemporary sound. She could have ended up sounding like Alicia. But Billie has taken her voice into a completely different direction. With time, she has learnt more and more into her vocal idiosyncrasies, giving it a really authentic, fragile and unique sound. But because Billie's tone is a choice, or at least an amplification of a natural vocal quality, it means that when she wants a fuller tone, like in No Time to Die, she can get that. Using this tone is one of the many places where Billie Eilish has flipped the idea of what a good singer is on its head. And although there have been breathy singers in the past, I can't think of one that delivers it in such a creative and detailed way. So what causes a breathy tone and how can we sing like that? Well, breathy tone is quite controversial in the vocal coach community, and that's because it's a really inefficient way of singing. It means you have to put in a lot of breath for a very small sound, and this can be quite harsh on some people's voices. Sound is created when air from the lungs passes through two bands of tissue in the throat called the vocal cords. Now, when you get a full, clear tone, the vocal cords are coming together fully and the air puffs through the middle. Now, this sounds like this. A breathy tone happens when you don't put your vocal cords together fully, allowing more air from the lungs to leak through. It sounds like this. It's this force of air that could cause a vocal damage over the long term. But if you are warming up with full cord closure, if you're giving yourself plenty of rest days, if you aren't forcing that air and you're not singing with too much tension, it should be okay. And in Billie's case, I think she has lots of good people around her, so I'm pretty confident that she's going to be looking after her vocal health. It's also really interesting to note that in more recent performances, she's stopped using that real breathy tone quite as much, and although it does pop up a little bit, it's a lot more sparing. Now, this could be because she is protecting her vocal health, or it could be because she is connecting with the emotional needs of each song, making them slightly less fragile and more self-assured.
But you ruined her and you don't act like it was hurt.
Either way, it shows that Billie will keep creating, changing, and adapting. She will follow the needs of her voice, of the emotion in each song, and of her fans. And it's going to be really interesting to see if all the things I'm going to talk about in this video will stay the same over the next few years. Billie uses a relatively small range but has great resonance in the lower part of her range when she wants it, and can dip down to an E3 with a relaxed and easy technique.
Looking through my room for the money. Inviting my straight to the table. And that's about the only thing they share.
Now, I actually think Billie has some higher range than this, but she shows us up to a G5 in her song Copycat.
Sorry, now you know. Sorry, I'm the one that told you so.
It is pretty hard to sing higher than this with Billie's current technique and without chord closure, and this technique contributes to that thinner sound at the top of her range. However, Billie isn't about big, showy high notes. She's all about emotional expression, and that thinness does fit with the rest of her voice. Having said that, I also wouldn't be surprised if she shows us some more big high notes with more standard technique, but only if she feels it fulfills the emotional needs of the song. Billie is so adaptable and creative, really anything is on the table with what she does next. But for the meantime, she's made a very bold choice towards expression in her very unique way, and chooses to sing in a way that's more technically inefficient to fulfill her emotional delivery. Billie has control over her registers, sometimes maintaining a smooth transition from her chest voice into her head voice by lightening it off as she gets higher. And sometimes, on the other side, she plays around with contrasting a heavy chest voice with a light, breathy head voice. Now, you can hear these two techniques in my future. Pay close attention to the words here and better.
Can't you hear me? I'm not coming home. But I know better than to drive you home.
She actually can have a fuller tone higher in the range and even has a heavy mix, but she does use it very sparingly and sometimes with a little bit of tension.
You know I'm bad, you know it, you know I'm bad.
Because she uses this belt texture so little, it shouldn't cause her too many problems, even if she does have a little bit of tension in there. And when she does get that belt spot on, it has an even greater effect than it does with many singers because it contrasts so much with the rest of her singing. However, she favors bringing her head voice down lower than most contemporary singers, which adds to that light, breathy falsetto sound. Billie is very controlled, and despite her reputation does use standard technique sometimes, but only when she thinks it aids the emotion of the song or she really needs it. She can have good breath support at times, but often drops it, allows the air to leak through, or forces it too much. And this can contribute to a squeezed tone sometimes. However, I think this is purposeful. For those of you that are unsure what breath support is, good breath support is a nice, relaxed in-breath and then slowly letting the air out at the perfect rate to allow the vocal cords to vibrate efficiently. When learning technique, there are things that you definitely need. You need to be able to pitch well and you need to be able to sing rhythm well. But beyond that, stylistically, in my opinion, It's up to you and what you want to express and how you want to be able to express it. Now, if you want to sing opera, you need really, really good breath support to create that sound. But if you want to sing emotionally or conversationally, then you need to be able to embody the sounds that we make in emotional situations in day-to-day life. And I'm pretty sure in emotional situations, my breath support is not on point. Having said that, I think the key is, and it's definitely what Billie Eilish does, is to be able to sing with good standard technique so you can hit those high notes or sing long phrases or have a really balanced tone when you need it. But don't be afraid to let that go sometimes.
One of the stupid rules we've given ourselves is we don't use any pitch correction unless it's like a song with auto-tune as an art form. There's no
Which
pitch
we've
correction.
done, by the way, one of.
Yeah, and everybody hated it, so we're not doing it again. We learned our lesson.
I said one of the things that I think is essential for singers is good pitch, and Billie is fantastic at pitching even when she drops her breath support. And for most singers, when they drop their breath support, that's when pitch can wander a little. And I think this is partially down to her meticulous nature around her music. When she's recording music, she does it again and again and again until she gets it perfect. And when your body sings something that many times with that much detail, it becomes muscle memory. I usually talk about vowels in this section because most people use vowels to aid their technique. Billie doesn't really do that. She uses her vowels for emotional expression. So, let's get to the emotional expression section. Billie expresses emotion in the most stark and subtle way. So I've picked out some techniques she uses, and I'm going to start with vowels and consonants. The use of consonants is so nuanced, and because of her vocal style and because of the production by her brother Finneas, you can hear absolutely everything. Now, just because her singing style is small doesn't mean it's not difficult, and her detailing goes beyond anything that I have ever heard before.
Like, do you hear how exact every single letter is? Like, white shirt.
This is also after like a day of her beating herself up over it.
Yeah, I'm
like listening to it,
very
knowing like
hard on myself.
I didn't sing the word white right.
Because of the use of highly amplified and compressed microphones, you can hear absolutely everything. So Billie has to be a little bit softer with her consonants, and she does this by using a really relaxed tongue. She also favors dental consonants over more clear, crisp consonants. So you can do this by using the flat of your tongue, this area, instead of the tip or the blade of your tongue to produce sounds like D's and T's. And sometimes she changes the consonant completely.
If teardrops could be bottled, there'd be swimming pools filled by mud.
So let's think of the word teardrops. There she makes the T a dental T, teardrops. She drops the completely and makes a really soft P.
If teardrops.
And then the C on could is not like how I just said it with a K, it's a K. She brings that K really far forward to make it really crisp. And then on bottled, she almost changes the L to a W to make bottled.
Could be bottled.
Then you have der instead of there, so her tongue is further back and more towards a D. And then my favorite one, on the word pools, she drops the L completely, so you have swimming pool full of modules.
There'd be swimming pools filled by mud.
Normally consonants get in the way of smooth singing, so by dropping them you can maintain that smooth sound. Billie embodies a modern style of singing that has been dubbed cursive singing, as if each letter is joined. Her vowels are really interesting because she really changes them up dependent on the emotional context, sometimes opening them up and singing on the vowel, or sometimes closing them, singing on the consonant, or making them sound really squeezed, and this gives it a more fragile emotional feel. You can hear both these techniques on this clip. On the words falling for, those are really open and sung on the vowel, and on the word lie, she closes that vowel. Again, she mixes and matches between standard technique and really anything else that aids the emotional expression, creativity, and storytelling. And sometimes she does unusual things just because it sounds really cool. For example, in My Future, she morphs the sound on myself to an oo, so you get myself. Have a listen. Billie uses a really interesting texture called vocal fry, which sounds like this. This both echoes some of the really genius distorted production tools used by Finneas, and is also a great emotional tool. You can hear it a lot in When the Party's Over. Vocal fry happens when you're using a relatively small amount of air through really slack vocal cords, and they're held together quite tightly. This means that rather than vocal cords vibrating in an even way like they do when you sing without any effects or distortion, air pops through in little irregular bubbles, resulting in this creaking popping sound. The use of fry, breathy tone, and full tone become a subtle yet effective vocal texture palette that she switches between to create her emotional picture. Interestingly, how she uses breath in vocal fry is opposite from what she's doing in her breathy tone, so it's quite impressive how quickly she can switch between the two. You can hear these quick switches on Bad Guy.
So you're a tough guy, like you're really rough guy. Just can't get enough guy, just always so puff guy. I'm that bad guy.
Billie makes breath almost an equal part in her vocal textures to her singing. Now this is partially down to Finneas's production, to modern technology and microphones and compression, but also down to her vocal style. And this is something that's been used for a long time in cinema sound design. In Hans Zimmer's score for Interstellar, he asked the 60-person choir not only to sing, but recorded them all breathing collectively. He wanted to hear the exhalation of 60 people, as if the wind flows through the sand dunes in the Sahara. To me, breath can express so much, whether it's a sigh or a quick, excited breath, or whether there is silence. The production in this is so creative and so gorgeous, and hearing the breaths is something that comes up a lot in modern art forms like ASMR and podcasting. Now, hearing that breath is such an intimate experience for the listener. It makes you feel as if the singer is right in your ear. And taking techniques from ASMR and podcasting is part of the genius of her sound. I can't think of any singer that performs so closely to us and so intimately, and I think this is really difficult to replicate live. Now, I have never seen her live, so I don't know how well it translates, but certainly on the records, that combination of ambient sounds, of the breaths, of the vocals, of the crisp, cut sounds, is just captivating. Billie's musicality is phenomenal, and she wouldn't be able to speak to us so directly if she didn't have a great sense of phrasing and dynamics. She adapts to each song and generally opts for something a little bit more smooth and legato rather than chopped up or percussive, but this works really well for her style. She loves a slide, so instead of hitting a note dead on, like she'll slide up to it. Her phrasing has constant movement, and although her dynamics are small, she makes up for it by being masterful at using textures, including a lovely vibrato.
You never go away. I gotta stay now.
She does this really interesting thing, which is very her and very different than how a lot of singers would approach this. So when she has a higher note that slides to a lower note, instead of it being louder, going to a softer place and keeping it open, she starts it quietly and then slides and makes that really full and squeezes it and has a kind of pushed vibrato. She can do it much better than me. Listen to her on the clip.
And I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
Of course, I cannot skim past the genius production by Finneas on the tracks. Their songwriting is catchy, it's dark, and it takes us to places that pop songs don't usually take us. The production is subtle with bold textural choices that are used in just the right amount, in just the right places to evoke the world in which each song lives.
You should see me in a crowd. I'm gonna run, there's nothing to help. Watch me make 'em bow.
Again, he's using ideas from ASMR with crisp sounds, which are the most common ASMR triggers, being a main part in the production. So for example, in Bad Guy, there are highly amplified finger snaps and claps and a tiny turning cog, all ASMR sounds, instead of a snare drum.
On both my knees for you, don't say thank you. Oh please, I do what I want when I'm one.
And this clarity of production also happens in her vocals. Because it is so highly amplified and you can hear everything, it is incredibly immersive. And he also uses another cool ASMR binaural beats trick of stereo sound. If you listen to this clip with headphones, you'll hear how Billie's vocals move between different ears.
I don't need a Xanny to feel better.
Or when he has multiple layers of Billie's vocals, he will put the vocals in different ears. This makes it incredibly three-dimensional, as if you are surrounded by and immersed in Billie's voice.
Visions I've vandalized, cold in my kingdom size, fell for these oceans.
And although he has produced work for other artists, there's something really special about when they work together. Now, when you normally work with a producer, you work with the producer for the allotted amount of time that the record label will pay for. The work between the two of them doesn't feel rushed. Each note is intentional. It feels like the sort of work that you pour your soul into. It's full of love, and I think you can hear that love in its meticulous execution. Of course, that love is very clear in Everything I Ever Wanted, where the music video starts with a quote written on the screen. Finneas is my brother and best friend. No matter the circumstance, we always have and always will be there for each other. And sometimes it seems like they're just having the best time making fun music together. I've talked about what I think technically makes Billie Eilish great. But for me, no artist is great unless their music or they are impacting the world in a greater way. And Billie Eilish certainly is. She has an activist spirit that runs through the lyrics of her song, and although her voice is quiet, her words are outspoken. She has become an icon for young people around the world, tackling climate change in All the Good Girls Go to Hell, sexism in Your Power, mental health in Lovely, and promoting self-love in My Future. Outside of her music, she is outspoken in all of these topics, as well as in animal rights. And her music doesn't shy away from the dark side of nature, but rather explores where to draw the line between darkness and light. It's fascinating to watch her learn lessons about life herself and express them through her music, giving a voice to people who are going through the same things and providing a new perspective to people who aren't. This ability to communicate human truths is made even starker by the close-up production and vocal style. She is an intimate, immersive voice in a technological pandemic world that is more and more lacking in intimacy, speaking directly into the listener's ears, making you lean in and listen even more intently. From what I have seen, she is providing a great moral compass for young and old people alike, and it's wonderful to see an artist who underpins each song, each fashion choice, and each social media post with trying to make the world a little bit of a better place. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked. If you did, please do like and subscribe. Once again, big thanks to the patrons. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to make these videos. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about my Patreon, get some early access to some of the content, please do head over to patreon.com/BethRoars, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Down.